Chair, I think I'm comfortable with either way, and so that then it doesn't skip my mind. Through the chair, as of today, the total outstanding loan that we owe both to KCB and to Stanbic Bank is 6,632,839,634.
KCB alone, sorry to interrupt, Chair. We just want to know KCB, how much is owed?
The amount owing to KCB alone is 4,826,348,596.
The other part?
The other part is money is owed to Stanbic Bank.
Proceed.
And to also clarify on the issue of the 755, these are monies that the ministry has disbursed to knock through GOK grants for upstream exploration over a period of time, specifically for the construction of the geochemical and petrophysical laboratory and equipping of the same. And like you see in table 3 as the PS has read, 755 million was on call deposit as at yesterday. But yesterday the bank placed 433 million and basically 462 million in what they call a cash margin account to facilitate opening of letters of credit for the equipment supplier for the upstream laboratory and for the field geological equipment. And so what remains or what will be put on call deposit again effective today is 293 million. So this money was budgeted, procurement processes were complete, but we could not issue LCs for the last 6 months because we had challenges accessing the money. I think up to that point now I can go back to the presentation. And we can start from page 5. In terms of upstream project updates, we have completed the National Oil and Gas Seismic Processing Center. The acquisition of geochemical and petrophysical lab equipment is 100% committed. The upgrading of the National Petroleum Data Center with the support of the ministry is also complete. We have completed additional geological, geophysical, and geochemical studies across the whole network. We leased equipment from Geothermal Development Company, which supported us in doing more than 300 kilometers of what they call magnetolurics and time domain lines on the block. We have also completed petroleum engineering studies for the potential drillable sites in the block. We have completed the data packaging and we are progressing now to commence marketing the block to potential farming partners. And further to support the government on exploration activities, we sent 8 upstream engineers to further training in Dubai, which facilitated them to participate in the current ongoing drilling activity in Block 11B by Eni Kenya BV. For the downstream budget implementation, for the first half of the financial year ending December, we have generated internal revenues of 402 million against a target of 993 million. And operating expenditure is about 1,091 million against a target of 269 million. And principally, the expenditure has gone up, and the general revenue generation has gone down because our working capital constraints have resulted in us not being able to buy enough product. Our earnings after tax, as at end of December last year, is at 689 million loss. So for the first half of this financial year, we have made close to 700. That is 689, 727 thousand in terms of losses. And this is because of working capital constraints, which has led to decreased margins, reduced sales, and this has not been helped by the government stabilization program, where working capital is held up in treasury because of delayed payment of the subsidy by government to oil marketing companies. And this further has been eaten by increasing financing costs, because even as the loan is not paid, interest still accrues. And so on return to profitability, as the peers had explained on how we are working towards turning around NOC, we have upscaled management. We have instituted disciplinary measures against employees mentioned both in forensic and internal audit reports. We have entered into a strategic partnership with Gulf Energy, who now finance our OTS allocation. And we have also instituted operational efficiencies, and we have completed our retail master plan and portfolio rationalization together with the real-time inventory and cash management. We have revised our dealer license agreements so that we tightened the loopholes that were there. And we have completed a number of assets renewals in a number of our stations with our little resources. If you walk across the country, we have renovated about 7 petrol stations. And we have also completed the contract, and Oracle is undertaking the integration of our ICT, ERP, and stocks management systems, so that then the 3 systems can communicate to further support our internal control mechanisms. And so I think with those few remarks, I will jump to page 14. And so our biggest challenge in terms of our downstream operations is that our current liability book stands at 9.6 billion against our current assets book of 2.6 billion. That tells you that we have not yet progressed. We are still technically insolvent. And the projected loss for this financial year is 1.4 billion. And out of this 1.4 billion, 1.1 billion is in financing cost alone. And there is a very high opportunity cost on the business because KCB Bank holds a free floating debenture on all our assets. And we have not yet received any shareholder injection for the downstream business. And as of today, our pending bills stands at 927 million. And so our prayer to Parliament today is that you continue to support us, because Parliament is a budget-making house. We request that Parliament supports our budgetary process through allocation of 3 billion as shareholder injection, either as capital or shareholder loan. And we intend to use that money by utilizing 1.8 billion to constitute working capital and 1.2 billion to constitute capital expenditure towards our rebranding efforts to make our stations new and for expansion. 6.5 billion to support us settle bank loans, and 3 billion to support us further in our exploration activities in Block 14T. And we request that Parliament also supports us to settle the legacy outstanding pending bills, cumulatively 950 billion. And once Parliament supports us through this initiative, then we'll have a sustainable and profitable downstream business. We will have an enhanced participation in our economy in terms of upstream, and we will commence to pay dividends in the next 12 months to the Exchequer, and NOC will start competing effectively in the downstream marketing of petroleum products. And we will then be able to say we have a proud NOC that can 100% execute and deliver on its mandate. I think it is good that we become candid, Madam Chair. If these things are not going to happen, then the easiest, which also might still be a painful process, is to close NOC.
Madam Chair.
I think the presentation was good or was okay until your last statement. Everybody is dying with your last statement. The PS had actually given us the way out and the way forward as far as NOC is concerned in a positive trajectory towards recovery. And in good faith, and as of yesterday, the ministry managed, actually the day before, yesterday, as of Monday, the ministry managed to talk to KCB to whereby the 755 million shillings was released so that we can start crawling before we think of getting up and waking up and standing up and then walking and eventually running. And in the PS presentation, it was very clear the way we are supposed to go, so that we can bring NOC from ICU to HDU and eventually general ward and work out on your own feet. So, and your presentation also was there. But in your last statement, wow, you really killed it. You really just killed it. Because you are taking us in the right direction until you just said what you said in your last statement. I will not attempt to repeat it. You will repeat it yourself. We'll try, because you must get yourself out of this hole. Because all of us who had very shiny, bright, smiling, NOC is our baby. As a country, when I speak, we speak. When Parliament speaks on behalf of the country, as the representative of the people. NOC is our baby. NOC is Kenya's baby. NOC, we only have one NOC. We can only have one NOC in the country. So you cannot attempt to talk about how we should wish death of the only NOC that we can have. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Let's find a way of getting out of this. Let's try and find a way to erase especially the last two statements that you made, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm also taken aback as a member of this committee that Mr. Leparan recommends closure of NOC. And maybe just to get the point, I know there was a very rigorous process of recruiting the CEO. And the PS, who is of course accountable to the NOC, is the one who sees the policy operations of NOC. I want to know, Mr. Leparan, whether you were specifically recruited and you are a marketer. Is that true? I thought you were a marketer by profession. I want an answer to that before I make the next comments. I'm still prosecuting, Chairman, because the remarks actually paint a very grim picture of the state, especially of taxpayers' money. And also, Chairman, if we go to page number 6 that is started with, number 6 paints a very grim picture where your operational expenses are at 1 billion. Your sales, internal generated revenue means sales, is actually at 400 million. That is a very grim picture because you are actually eating more than you are generating. And if this trend continues, Chairman, I'm doubting whether NOC will ever come out of this hole that they are in. Already the loans, the liabilities, the current assets versus the liabilities is actually a huge figure where we are talking of over 6 billion versus current assets of 2.6 billion. I don't know what the government needs to do with the NOC. It is a very grim picture. And yet, Chairman, we have companies raking in billions. The other oil marketing companies, I don't want to mention them by names, but literally the big oil marketing companies are making billions every year in terms of profit. Are we saying, Chairman, that the government cannot do business? Then we'll need to make a decision quickly so that we say that a NOC can never be can never be a sustainable business. Then we rely on other marketing companies that are able to provide us fuel. It is a scenario. We have a same case scenario with KQ that is struggling. We have NOC. I think NOC will be number 2 in terms of losses, in terms of making in government. But of course, the sugar industry is also there. We need KPLC declared a profit recently, so we take them as they presented their audited accounts. Therefore, the question is, Chairman, I really don't find confidence in the presentation that NOC is on the right track to recovery. I'm seeing a scenario where year in, year out, God willing, I'll be serving this committee in the next parliament, that NOC will be in the red more than the liabilities will have increased. Therefore, we need assurance, especially from the peers, that whether the government injects money, you bring proposals, we see that is visible, but radical decisions, drastic measures needs to be taken, initiated, of course, by the National Treasury through the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining, so that we decide whether we are going to rescue NOC or do we let it collapse. So, Chairman, those are my sentiments. I'm actually at a bad state before this presentation. The confidence I had that probably something will come out of this presentation. If it was 10%, now it has gone to 1% that NOC can recover. Thank you, Chairman.
Chair, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is that we close NOC? The C has not even said that we can have a partner, like the PS said, to redeem NOC position. But more importantly, the MD said that Parliament is a budget-making entity. It's not a budget-making entity for loss-making institutions. We do budgets projecting that we are going to get a return on investment for the country, not for Parliament. So it's good to make that statement on record. And I've seen you've talked about 6.8 billion for the loans. But on the other side, you're saying you have a 9.5 billion liability. Where does the 3 billion lie? How do you account for it in terms of liability? Because we thought it's only the 6.5 for KCB and the other bank.